All right. By the way, my readers, I just want to remind you, don't get too close to the mic. Okay. We can hear you. If I can't hear you, I'll wave to you from the back for those of you coming up to read. All right. So we have a wonderful evening planned. If you need to use the facilities across the street at the firehouse, they'll allow us. We have 50, 25, 25s in the back. We have some books for sale in the back. Everybody should have a program which gives you the bios of all of our readers. And more importantly, or as importantly, on the back is a list of all of our very generous sponsors who have helped make this a very successful year for us. So without any further ado, first time here at the Gazebo, we welcome Linda Kleinbub. We don't read bios. Send them by email.
Sorry. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Hi, I'm going to be reading from my book cover charge, and I got the proof of my next book in the mail, so I'm going to read a very quick poems from that at the end. But I'm going to start with cover charge, and I have copies with me today. The first poem is called Be My Garden. I need to cleanse myself, dig myself into the dirt, sleep with daffodil bulbs, breathe earth. I remember where last season's tomatoes grew, where the strawberry patch sent its runners through the hot peppers and the eggplants. I need to feel you again, to know you like I know the dirt in my garden. I'll rake last season's leaves from you, fertilize you, rejuvenate you. I want to introduce you to the praying mantis and the ladybugs so they can defend you from parasites. I want you soil ready so I can dig my hands in deep, plant a fragile seedling, water it, and watch it grow. Thank you. The next one is called Abecedarian Affair. As if in a dream, she begins a friendship, cherishes a kiss, dances with smoke rings and fire. Evenings when the lonely, fiendish schools in her head arrive, she becomes a flirt. Intense conversation, just a harmless kiss. Foolishly, she lets him view her vulnerabilities, memories, sad stories. Alone at night, lusting under the moonlight, she opens her heart, pours out her soul. Quest to find love requires a clear, sound mind, which she gives up tonight. She remembers a time under a summer sky, a Valentine love, waltzing on the cliffs of the heights. X-rays can't see her open wounds. Yearning, she paces, a lion caged at the zoo. The next poem is called Missing. Actually, the next one is called The Painter. Painter, she paints when her love sleeps. In darkness with acrylics on canvas, she splashes emotions of her temptations, rinsing her brushes in teardrops, mixing pigments and heartache. Moonlight spills through the window. She turns her sins into painted trees, hangs them by the desk where she works, a memory. She prays in church forgiveness. Flowers begin to push up dirt, instill hope, renewal, resist going back to darkness. Turn this day into hope. Confession does not cure her longings. Guided by her harlot heart, she checks her phone messages, looking for her next paramour. This poem is called Carnage. They sit catty corner at the back of the bar, full of poetry and alcohol. Romantics left empty share stories, heartache, and anguish. Raw and honest, hearts exposed, they take turns, slice slivers of heart, and place them on the bar. Tales of a slow death lasting too long. Drama of a love that shattered spirits. Mourning a companion lost in a bottle. Memoir of a marriage held together with strings. They reminisce all night, slice slivers of heart until the bar is red, covered with blood, carnage of lonely souls. Looking into his blue eyes, revealing behind sorrow passion, words evaporate. Leaning in, she whispers, "Kiss me." Lost in each other, for a moment they are healed. The next poem came out of a workshop I took with a teacher named Dorianne Locks. And the challenge was that a good poem could be read forward and backwards. And this poem is called Flying to Lexington, reading Nick Flynn. I can't stop it. Skin will sag, no matter how many squats, all the crunches I do. I float above clouds. Next to me, a chubby woman sits in your seat. Not everyone gets a second chance. I'll check into the hotel alone. I'll search slumber in the vastness of a king-size bed for one. I know it is time for me to travel. You can only carry me so far. So far, you can only carry me. I know it is time for me to travel. In the vastness of a king-size bed for one, I'll search slumber. I'll check into the hotel alone. Not everyone gets a second chance. In your seat next to me, a chubby woman sits. I float above clouds. All the crunches I do, no matter how many squats, skin will sag. I can't stop it. This poem is called Missing. Pearl shampoo you left in my bathroom, even after I asked you to take it with you. I don't know why I'm telling you this. Now that the green shampoo is gone, I have to confess, I saved a lock of your hair. Sometimes I take it out. It smells like you. This is called School of Obedience. She'll never be man's best friend. Forever she'll remain Pavlov's dog in training. He wants it to perform, good dog. He wants to keep her down, bad dog. He says, "You're so beautiful," as he strokes her into submission. He knows how to stimulate her, so she does tricks to please him. Still, he rings bells to remind her of her shortcoming. He tells her, "I love you," as he places wind chimes above her head. Bells ring random in the wind. A haunting melody chimes outside her window. He says, "I'm addicted to you," but she's back in her kennel when he's through. Sometimes he runs his fingers through the wind chimes to remind her of her crimes. She knows he is counting her sins. He needs to keep her in her place, keep her down. Sometimes she retreats, sometimes she hides. Still, she will remain astray. Sometimes she still scratches his door, still looking for her last bone. And this one is called Sunken Ship. Fog made of salt, tears of mermaids, voices rising from deepest sorrow, carry me towards daylight. Fuse myself whole again. Wipe my tears with beach fire coals. Lose me on the shoreline. Let me become food for seagulls. So those were from Cover Charge, and now I'm going to read a few quick ones from my new book. This is a book of pandemic poetry. It's going to come out this fall, and this is the first proof that I got. So get a sneak preview. And this one's called Food for Thought. First time to Northside Bakery since lockdown began 5 weeks ago. Outside, customers line up 4 to 6 feet apart. I wait behind a Polish-speaking family. Mom, dad, teen and grade school daughters wear black latex gloves and surgical masks. The teen starts coughing, and I begin to worry. Is it worth dying for a good loaf of bread? This is a haiku. I'll read it twice since you're supposed to read a haiku twice. Saturday afternoon. Cat walks through keyboard, interferes with Zoom call. Dinner time is near. Saturday afternoon. Cat walks through keyboard, interferes with Zoom call. Dinner time is near. And the last two poems are the last two poems in the book, and they're both acrostic poems, which means they spell a word. So the first one spells the word sleep, and the next one spells COVID virus. So this is called Sleep. And it recently was on, it was published in First Literary Review East, which is a nice little online journal. You can submit your poetry to them. They're really, they're really welcoming about poetry. So this is Sleep. Silence the jitterbug. Let yourself rest. Evening's herbal tea entices you to dream. Put yourself in bed. And my last poem, and thank you so much for coming out. It's really great to be here. And thank you, Tony Iovino and the Oceanside Library. It's really an honor. I came all the way from Queens, and it's really great to see new people hear my work. So I really appreciate that. COVID virus. Children, what will you observe? What will you remember? Valuable lessons are not identified in classrooms. Designate responsibility. Virus kills humans, cleans earth. Inside every torment is a reason to survive. Understand, I don't have answers, but I'll share all my knowledge for a cure. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Great job. Linda Kleinbub. Okay, we have two readers tonight whose names I misspelled. Both one in the past and one again this week, even after she contacted me. Didn't pass it on to my assistant. And so Emily Sue Sloan, there's an E at the end of Sloan, right? So, okay, I want to remind everybody before I bring Emily Sue up, next week is our independence readings and barbecue. So we want to thank Kiwanis and Bob Transom in the back. So for those of you who have not been here for that, you come down, we read the Declaration of Independence and then a whole bunch of other readings that I put together. We have a free barbecue. It's a really nice kind of Stars Hollow-esque evening for those of you who are Gilmore Girls fans. Okay, so without any further ado, Emily Sue Sloan.
Well, thank you, Tony. Thank you for the E on Sloan. Hi, everybody. Good to see you. Okay, I'm going to start with coffee break. Poetry not your thing. You don't say so, but I read in your eyes the sorry that you asked what I do. I hesitate and then confess. I write poetry. I want to tell you in the silence that follows, poetry's not my thing either. It just flows from my pen in spurts, ink spilled before I can stop it. Poetry lets me off the hook. No plot lines, no character arcs. It peers through beveled windows, overturns stones, seeks patterns in coffee grounds. It lives in snapshots rather than movies. I want to tell you poetry sipped is poetry savored. Espresso with a shot of Zambuca at a sidewalk cafe. Try it. You may develop a taste for it. But I gulp my coffee, usually while reading something that's not poetry. My empty cup reminds me to notice. Thank you. Night sky. I watched the rings of Saturn nearly touch the moon last night as the sky grew dark and cold. Curtain clouds had parted to reveal glowing lights traveling through galaxies, indifferent to our notice. The planets asked the stars to waltz to a tune I could barely imagine. I've watched strangers come that close on crowded city streets, unaware their orbits touching. This was no Arizona sky where stars crowd onto a limitless stage. No, New York nights, sparse by comparison, lights on the ground inverse to the heavens. But even so, the astronomer on the radio had told an unseen audience where to look, what we'd see, the awe he kept to himself. I watched the rings of Saturn nearly touch the moon last night as the Milky Way took a bow, Applause rang out across the eons. Thank you. I grew up on the North Shore of Long Island in Glen Cove, spent a lot of time at the beach. This one's called On the Cusp. Sunscreen's perfume takes me back to my copper tone youth. Tribal beach, a crazy quilt, teen towels touching. Sunlight turned oiled skin bronze and lemon streaked hair blonde. Rows of nearly naked bodies turned in unison to bake the other side. Tinny transistor radios tuned to rock and roll. DJ's voices familiar as family. Concession stand hot dogs, Italian ices, and tab fueled idle chatter. High stepping races across scorching sand and stones to charge into the frigid Long Island Sound. Days salted with laughter, insecurity swept to the edges like seaweed clinging to exposed swim ropes at low tide. Childhood dove under the waves, peered into murky waters, and came up sputtering. Thank you. Just a quick note on this one. Amanda Green is a misheard or misunderstood lyric. Oldies. The music of my youth echoes across the decades, sets the body to dancing. Car wheels turning, windows rolled down to let the wind carry me to a destination unmarked by wrinkles in time. Smiles recall roads not yet traveled, dreams not yet buried under duty and need. Those simpler days when bills were paid by someone older and wiser, when food appeared in cupboards, the lugging and unpacking my only job, when the call to help came blasting past guitar solos and drum beats. All these years later, lyrics and harmonies emerge, unchanged. Even the same mondegreens preserved like fossils, frozen in a time when the future was all any of us could see. This one's called The Baker. It's for my grandmother. Nanny's cigarette hung from her lips, a lengthening ash that never seemed to fall as she sifted and sprinkled flour, folded in the butter, beat the eggs, kneaded and rolled the dough to a consistency her hands recognized as right for blintzes, cakes, and pies, pinched and prodded into pockets stuffed with farmer cheese and fruit, or layered and dressed for the occasion with icing and whipped cream. One eye closed against the curling smoke, she unfurled her stories and told in cadences practiced and perfected over a lifetime. The details have now faded, like the recipes my mother wrote down, a pinch of this, a dollop of that. Left out the tears, the laughter, the tobacco ash. It's still June, so I'm going to wish everybody a happy Pride. This poem is called It's Not Complicated, a love poem. My love, once airy and light, has grown roots and a full crown of leafy branches over a great many seasons. We brace each other when lashing winds would topple us and drenching rains muddle our footing. We hold up a mirror to remind us who we are, alone and together. We trace the lines back to our younger passion, a time when we could not, no, would not turn away as the world would have had us do. Anyone who really looks can see the us that love has forged. And this one's called Who You Are. To live is to become who you are if you're lucky and you're brave. Much easier to become who they want you to be. Wear the uniform, say the prayers, marry, have kids. So much work to peer inward, trace the origin of beliefs and behaviors, carryovers from youth. Do unto others. Don't point at people or ask too many questions. Don't talk about private family matters. Never pair checks and stripes. But what if you like to wear unmatched socks? Have doubts about God and miracles? Know in your heart that opposites don't always attract, or that your body doesn't match who you really are. Thanks. I have two more. The Rooster Crows. It was Dylan who wrote, "When your rooster crows at the break of dawn," but he had it wrong. In my suburban neighborhood, the crowing starts around 10 in the morning and picks up again at random afternoon hours. The raspy call makes me laugh. I wonder, was he out strutting till all hours of the night? Or maybe he doesn't care to compete with pre-dawn songbird sonatas. I'm guessing he's sulking because the hens have chased him off, clucking, "No freedom, no chicks." And I'll finish with this one. It won first prize in the Long Island Fair Poetry Contest a couple years ago when the theme was Gardens of Long Island. The Garden Party. Tiger lilies burst out orange on the dance floor, and soon irises and daisies were jitterbugging too. Petunias, begonias, and sunflowers watched contentedly from their places in the sun, while hostas and astilbes took refuge in the shade. The gladiolus family, wearing giant corsages in yellow, orange, and white, leaned into the trellis, attempting nonchalance. Marigolds had kindly offered to stand watch in case those pesky mosquitoes tried to get in. The place was buzzing, and no one seemed to notice when a couple of bees around the punch bowl spilled nectar as they bumbled their way through the crowd. Everyone complimented the hydrangeas on their blue and purple blooms, pom-poms, and agreed the black-eyed Susans had outdone themselves this year with their makeup. Finally, crepe myrtles made their grand entrance, festooned in white, lilac, pink, and red hats. Relative newcomers to the neighborhood, they stayed well past the fireflies' bedtime. Thank you so much.
Emily Sue Sloan. All right. It's actually cooler than it was, right? So having the wind is not the worst thing in the world. A little noisy tonight, but we'll get through it. That's the great thing about being out here. Without any further ado, Valerie Griggs.
That's good. Hey, everybody. Another great night at the Gazebo. Let's see. Pain as place. The pattern of my life shows signs of a desire to live where I am without fuss, with a child's bravery, a robin's breast to the sun. Now, no witness to my birth, no witness to the first 10 years of my life is alive. Silence surrounds me. A 4 a.m. in the park silence. I'm living in air and earth. I sound like a small cresting wave. I wait. Poet is witness, observer, recorder, unnoticed yet tangled in life's blooming. I selected the ancient verdant stony road in hopes of comfort and glimpses for the salve of word beauty and human meter. Without knowing, I would pitch a tent and dwell among longing. Over time, I've built a shelter for living in, for thinking. Hope for the best. This poem is from a challenge from a local gem. Memory poems over, I don't know how many days. 1 poem a day, 2 poems a day. I didn't make it, but I got a few. Earliest memories, Brooklyn. My brothers are 6 and 8 years older than I. With my middle-aged body, I remember my toddler body trying to keep up with them. They play a game on the living room floor. Small, colorful plastic mice, a chain reaction device, a silver ball. It's the whole world. The kitchen floor, smooth, cool, linoleum. Above me, voices ricochet, but I don't see faces. I stand in my crib. My chubby hands grip the white bar. I crane my neck to see through the railroad rooms into the kitchen. I see him sitting at the table on the red chair with silver legs. And I know he's my father. It's the whole world. This poem was published in the Suffolk County Poetry Review, 2024. Half a chance. Bring your life to a story, you daughters of absent men. Pink gray storm clouds look down on a wilting sun with a tenderness that splits stones. Tears collect beneath bended knee and the truth spills over. This is the last time. The power of one life to uproot and break through anguish, dig up hard, fallow ground, is free to anyone. See it all as golden, the sweet, the strange. Love is waiting, watching. It's all because of death. Life has to happen now. Thank you. This poem is in Nassau County Voices in Verse 2024. Silvery mist exhales, condenses to a plump rainbow drop that dangle in pine boughs, swaying slightly in the wake of jays cutting the stillness with their angular blue crowns. Now, intuition, nestled in ancient roots, sliced by afternoon light, invites me to listen to the wild dream strings, melodies of possibility and purpose play omnisciently on. Our deepest transformation happen out of sight. Be the winged voice singing your life. Okay. Confessions of a burnt out empath. Forgive me, but I have to pay attention to my own suffering, the suffering of my parents, my grandparents. Your suffering has too much flash and celebrity. Mine echoes through the ancient tunnels where the salt of the earth accumulates and backs laden with burdens from shamans break. Your suffering has no eyes for Shiloh, no seat for mercy or substitution. As if that's not enough of an exclusion, you label different truths as constructs, byproducts of a past neither of us has ever lived. So let's leave it at that. Everyone keeps their constructs. Suffer and let suffer. This planet is big enough. The only reason to be at odds with each other is if somebody believes their suffering is unique, something radically unlike anyone else's suffering, worse than anyone else's, more valid than anyone else's, and therefore somehow more important than anyone else's suffering. Here's another cynical poem. This is in Writing Outside the Lines, Volume 2. Millennium Men. It's no longer earth we walk on, but corpses. It's no longer rain that falls, but bones. They are drenched with blood, human and animal, drunk with it. They are as proud as any Aztec priest, clothed in his victim's skin, chewing on his victim's heart. Socialists who despise blue collars, progressives who design re-education camps, liberals chanting mandatory medication. You'll own nothing, and you'll be happy about it. Every man, as in that medieval poem, every man is too ignorant, backward to grasp the cause, the evolving techno-reason, 15-minute cities, pods, data colonies, the destiny of humankind. But their version is nothing new, you know. Centuries ago, Dr. Gulliver gave us the Buddha, and Mao proclaimed, "Let 1,000 flowers bloom." Thank you. And I'll end with one from my book, Listen and Leap. Jones Beach at night. I could feel the moon pull the tide. It was so bright. And starlight fell on me like rain. The jetty glistened like onyx against the ghostly dunes, and sea spray stopped my breath with midnight's silver blaze. There I stood, so small and dull, floundering in archetypal remembrance of odysseys I don't usually think about. Noah's Ark, Kon-Tiki, Huck Finn. Why does the hero take a journey? Why do we cast ourselves upon the waters? Maybe the scent of sea, salt, and stars spurs us on. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Valerie Griggs. And in case you don't know, all of our readings are up on our YouTube page, the Oceanside Library's YouTube page. And also almost all, I think, of our poetry near and afar. That's the series that we do September through May, which features one poet from here, one poet from afar, which has stretched from Nepal to Edmonton down to Jamaica and Texas and all other places. And that's been that's a fun series that sprung out of lockdown. And so we are enjoying that one. And that one we'd have an open mic, which shocks everybody. It shocks me every week that usually open mics and me, I'm not a big open mic fan. So without any further ado, we are absolutely, and I just see that my assistant misspelled Barbara's name too. So we're three of them here tonight. We're gonna have a little chat when I get into work tomorrow. But in fairness, I proofread it, so it's on me. We are delighted to have a former Suffolk County Poet Laureate here with us tonight. We have a former Nassau County Poet Laureate with us. Am I missing anybody else? Oh, another one? We got two of them, three of them. Oh, look at this. You can't swing a dead cat around here without hitting a Poet Laureate. And we will have the current Suffolk County Poet Laureate and the new Nassau County Poet Laureate here with us later in the summer. But now, without any further ado, good friend of all of us here in Long Island, Barbara Southard.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Tony. I love being here. I grew up in Freeport. That's not far away, so it feels good to be back on the South Shore. I'm going to read one poem and one short story that are related. It's from my second book, Time and Space. Now, when I was 8 years old, a boy would come over to play with my older brother. And my mother would tell my brother, I don't want you playing with that Southard boy. He's too wild. And I ended up marrying that Southard boy. This is what we did. We took off like a lot of people do, heading for Oregon. He'd come home from a war ready to use his fist on anyone who looked at him cross-eyed. And I wanted to be anywhere but where I was. So he bought a car with his severance pay, hitched up a trailer, and we drove clear across the country, pawning possessions along the way. We slept in fields and prairies next to migrant workers with their kids sleeping in rows on the ground. And oh, those stars at night glittering above in one big orgasm of light. Nothing like the stars back home. And the prairie birds waking us up to the sweetest sound like a chorus of angels. That trailer pulling car took us over the Cascades where we swore we heard the sounds of wagons, pots and pans banging against each other, the bellow of oxen, until there before us lay the lush green Willamette Valley. And that's where we ran out of gas and luck, 10 miles short of Corvallis. So we sold everything and walked the rest of the way, rented a room by the railroad tracks close to the river where the cougars screamed at night. And if you never heard a cougar scream, well, that's something you carry with you the rest of your life. But we didn't know that then. We only knew we'd reached home. And when he got hungry, he took his gun in the woods and shot a deer or tried for grouse as fast as the bullets he dodged in the war. And that was the beginning. The short story that's in this book is related to us going out to Oregon. This is about a woman named Odelia who we met out there. And she taught me a lot. It starts with a small little poem. Odelia, two brilliant blue eyes in a blancmange face, two holes in place of a nose, no lips to soften the cavernous mouth. We are all used to seeing two eyes, a nose, and a mouth in a certain symmetry within the framework of skin and bones. Odelia's face did not meet that paradigm. Her face was a glistening canvas of scar tissue, lacking the accoutrements of lids for the eyes, bridge for the nose, or lips for the mouth. A face scaled down to its most fundamental level. The first time I saw Odelia, I was sitting in a small country church in Oregon with my husband. I was 20 years old, pregnant and homesick for family, friends, and lobster. When Odelia walked up the aisle to take her seat, my initial reaction was to draw in a sharp breath, put a protective hand over my rounded belly. She appeared to be middle-aged, although it was hard to guess. She wore a blue flowered dress and her hair stood out in spiky patches around her face. But as she passed by, I could see a rather thick auburn mass of hair on the back of her head. Both her arms bore shiny scars, and one arm seemed to narrow and disappear near her elbow. The town we found ourselves in had been settled in that first wave west in the early 1800s. Logging was the attraction, and nothing much had changed since then. The men still logged, but on a smaller scale, and the women stayed home and took care of the children and the farm. After the first wave of settlers, very few people moved in and even less moved out. Therefore, the gene pool was somewhat restricted, which resulted in a variety of recessive gene afflictions. Odelia's arm was one of those afflictions. When I first saw her, I assumed that her arm had been caused by her injuries, but after a month of Sundays, I saw that withered arm replicated on two younger cousins and one of her aunts. The wood stove at the church was kept roaring through the service because half the parishioners had diabetes, resulting in poor circulation. Poor Pastor Freeberg would be up there talking away with sweat streaming down his face. Each Sunday, Odelia's cousin Frank would slide into this seat next to us in his coveralls, adding the aroma of cow manure to the wood smoke. He usually brought in a small container of raw milk as a gift. He took us aside the first day he brought in the milk and said, "It's real kind of Frank to bring you folks in some milk from his cows, but I just pour that out when you get home." And so when Frank brought in the milk, we thanked him for his kindness and dutifully poured the milk out when we got home, never knowing for sure why. Frank's voice was always heard above the others when the singing started. He was the one who told us what happened to Odelia. Yep, I was there that day. I'm older, you know, went there to help out. It was her birthday. 9 years old she was on that day. Aunt Edie had sewed her the prettiest dress, all filmy and pink with them ruffles and ribbons. Everyone was feeling especially good. Logging paid off good that year, and folks were celebrating, you know? It happened real fast. Must have been the head of hair she had, all wavy and thick down to her waist. The candles caught on to the hair of hers before you knew it. Odelia was screaming and flapping her hands, everyone running and screaming. When we all came to our senses, we started pouring buckets of water on her. That pretty dress of hers was nearly burned clean off. There wasn't no hospital nearby, but Doc Mills lived about 20 miles away. Tell you the truth, we thought she was going to die for sure. But everyone took turns sitting with her and changing them bandages. Doc Mills showed us how to boil the bandages and keep everything clean. Aunt Edie hardly ever left her side except to feed the chickens and cook. The truth is, the Lord just wasn't ready to call her home. During the year we lived there, I watched Odelia bring food over to different houses on the mountain. I watched her carry the wood in for the fire when Frank got cold, and I watched her roll bandages for the missionaries in the Philippines. Them poor people, Bobby, she'd say, got that disease from the Bible that eats away at their limbs. Them ladies over there take good care of them, changing their bandages and making them feel part of the world. Ain't right, folks have to be all alone in their troubles. I watched the children in the Sunday school run up to her to be hugged as soon as she walked in the room. And when our baby son smiled at her like she was the most beautiful face he'd seen, I noticed for the first time how beautiful and blue her eyes were. Thank you. Thank you.
Barbara Southard. Let's hear it for all of our readers here tonight. Before I select tonight's winner, I have to make a formal apology. We already got a call from PETA about my dead cat joke from before. I don't want to have a bunch of vegans throwing kale and quinoa at me as I go to work in the morning. All right, so we have tonight's winner is $30. And tonight's winner is Rita Monte. All right, and I'm gonna pick five. I'll come to you. It's okay. We deliver like DoorDash. All right. Now these next 5 tickets just go into the pool at the end for the grand prize in August. That would be Phil, Pamela Smith. Rita Monte's got another ticket in there. Oh. Lloyd and Karen Lazar. All right, everybody. So once again, next week is the Independence Day. Please come out and join us. It's a great, great evening. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, my friends in Kiwanis. Thank you all.